everybody, and welcome to the Sound of Inbound. Today, we are going to be joined by what could arguably be the better half of a power couple located in the heart of America, a very near and dear place for me as well. We will call this place the land of the cheeseheads. And she is the part owner or co-owner in a wonderful little agency called Common Core. We're both agency owners, and we're going to get to that. She's also a very proud dog owner, I believe, just like I am. I have Roxy. You have, is it Heather, Kaylee?
Yep. Heather is my baby for sure.
So she is up in Wisconsin, and she's got a great origin story about how she met her husband, how she started her agency. We're going to get into all of that. And we're going to talk also about some of our other things that we share in common, including our relationship with HubSpot. Kaylee, welcome to the Sound of Inbound.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I think the first thing, first, make sure I get this right. So her last name, if you want to Google it, it's Kaylee Gugel, but not spelled that way. Gugel, right? Gugel. And you met your husband, Luke, in the most interesting of ways, and that actually is your origin story for how you guys started your agency and named the agency. Is that right?
Yeah, so I was living in Seattle at the time, and he was here in Wisconsin. And we played a game online called Magic the Gathering, and we were just randomly paired up. So it wasn't even like a dating app. We weren't looking for love, I guess. But I beat him pretty bad in a couple matches. And so that kind of struck up a conversation of what cards are you using? What does your deck look like? And we became friends, and he decided to come out and meet me in person. And I was hesitant just based on like, I watch a lot of documentaries. So I'm like, this is a murder story just waiting to happen. Stranger coming up to Seattle. But no, we hit it off, and I decided to move to Wisconsin as things got more serious. And with stepkids, I have 3 stepkids in the picture, and I'm a Midwest girl at heart. I'm originally from the Kansas City area. And so it was nice to get back to kind of my roots.
Well, a couple things. So the first thing is I do have a lot of fondness to Wisconsin. I was married in Madison. My wife, who is also my partner in our business as well, she is from right outside of Madison, a little town called Marshall. So for anybody who's watching, shout out to Marshall, Wisconsin. But we got married in Madison. I love that area. I went to school in La Crosse. So Wisconsin's got some magical little areas. Door County, people hold up their hand and say they're from here. They're from here. I love that kind of stuff about Wisconsin. But my guess the thing for me is I've been speaking to some folks about all the world of Dungeons and Dragons. That's where my brother-in-law works. He's got a show called Dimension 20. And you guys met during Magic the Gathering. These online experiences become something much more, and it's very human to human interaction. It's not just the digital world, and obviously it's benefited you tremendously and given you a whole new life. So it's amazing, right? Magic the Gathering has really gathered you.
I really did. And that's where we originally came up with the name Common Core Marketing. The cards that we were using to play against each other are called commons. That's the type of cards. But really, it was our relationship, but our love for relationships at our core, at our center, and how that translates into the digital world, marketing, things like that. And that's how we came up with our name. It resonated with us on a very deep level.
That's awesome. Okay. I'm asking all my guests when they come on to this show to kind of share what universe they would live on. And it sounds like you're a big movie fan. Obviously, you're a big Magic the Gathering fan. So I figured this would be fun. So I'm going to ask, what universe would you rather live in? And it's like I give you some comparisons. So to just start off with Harry Potter or Star Trek.
Probably Star Trek. I love kind of sci-fi, future, space.
And I think it's like a utopian future, right? What about Star Trek versus Back to the Future?
Probably still Star Trek.
Okay,
I-
time travel, Star Trek, Back to the Future. And then the last one, and this one's going to be tough, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Okay, all right. Why would you pick Star Wars over Star Trek in this case?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think I'm just more familiar with the Star Wars universe. I think it's more of what I grew up with rather than the Star Trek side. But I still love all the sci-fi, all the futuristic, maybe AI will get us all there someday.
Well, you know what? It's an interesting thing I was going to bring up to you because I felt like, good brands last the test, stand the test of time. And one thing I was going to start asking folks on this show was, what's the first brand that you remember growing up?
Well, and that's before the time of all the digital marketing that we have now. The stuff that we see in stores, probably a toy brand. I remember going to Toys R Us and, seeing Legos and Polly Pocket and probably those more like kid brands. And that was a way more colorful time for design anyway. So all that was so eye-catching. So I would have to say definitely those toy brands from when I was little.
It's the same for me too. And I'm a huge fan of Legos. I gotta share on that. But yeah, it's like the earliest brands that I can remember are probably associated with things I played with, and that had an emotional connection for me. And I think that's another reason why I still remember them too. Okay, well, I was looking at your background and I thought there was something really interesting we could talk through. So you started off in design, is that correct?
So I originally got my bachelor's in graphic design. So I've always loved design packaging. We just talked about all the colorful stuff in the 90s, early 2000s, but I wanted to be able to do that on a technical level because I've always loved computers and software and things like that. So graphic design made sense for me to at least get my start. I think as I grew in my career, I got more interested in, working in design on the agency side. I would do an email or a banner ad or things like that early in my career post college. And I would always question, okay, well, what happened to the design that I did? Like, what were the metrics? What was the data around it? And that kind of got my logic brain spinning into where I've advanced into more of a marketing career that really gets to pair both sides. I still do a lot of design work, but I get to see what happens afterwards too, which is really cool.
These days I feel like it's a more modern mindset to say that you can't just be in one vertical as much as we wanted to be in the past, because there's just so many things that are changing. So making that switch, or not even a switch, I guess evolution for your career. Not everybody is going to go into design and then into marketing, but for yourself, you found like it was a natural way to follow what the impact was going to be, and that's beautiful. I think now to try to keep up in marketing, I'm sure we'll talk about that. There's a lot to think about. It's a whole nother universe, right? But from your standpoint, do you feel like that perspective of having that design background has benefited your marketing work?
Absolutely. It's enabled the work that I do, the work that we do. Being able to marry those skill sets lets us work faster, more efficiently. Having that design mindset, just being able to create an email using the tools at my disposal. I don't have a separate designer, a separate copywriter. I'm able to marry all those skills, and I feel like I'm working more efficiently than kind of if you have skill sets that are more siloed.
Yeah, my background's in the arts as well, but in music. And I feel like there's a discipline you learn when you're having to be creative, and then you have to switch over to being that scientific like mind. And then combining the two is always, I think it always creates a magical moment for me. So I've always find that when folks say, "Oh, I just want to study just this," I'm like, "You need different perspectives. It brings a whole different level of understanding and approach to things that is unique. And we need to do that in marketing. We got to be really, really unique." I was curious, just from being another agency owner like we both are, what was that one moment that made you decide, okay, I'm going to be in marketing now. I want to start my own agency. What was that like catalyst that made you think one day on a Tuesday afternoon, okay, yeah, this is it. We're going to do. Was it an easy switch, or did it just happen organically?
Easy and not, right? Kind of easy to have the idea, harder to execute and have the trust in yourself to make that jump. But I think for me, the moment was so I was in a leadership role at a different agency, and it really came down to the work that I wanted to do, specifically in HubSpot, and doing it the right way with more integrity, putting together more complex solutions that would suit the business. And I knew that I was only going to be able to do that on my own terms. That being said, the jump was hard. It was definitely staged where I started the business. Luke helped support me and then he took the jump as well. But it's definitely a hard start to, you know, really find that deeper trust in yourself and make that jump and bet on yourself every single day because there's no one else. It's just you when you're starting out.
Yeah, I had a similar kind of experience. I made the leap myself first for the family. We needed to be home. And pretty soon after me coming home, it was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I really need some help, and there's one person I could trust. So it was an easy ask. It was a very hard leap, very hard leap for her to quit her job at UNC Hospitals and come help me out. But to be there with the girls in some very important years of their upbringing was more important than anything else. And I think we were very fortunate to have that chance. And I'm sure you guys are having like every day is just a utopian, right? Just every single day is so easy and lovely, and living and working with your spouse.
Every day is definitely an adventure. That's what I would call it.
Yes,
And
it's an adventure. But I do feel like just in my own right, I'm not sure if you feel this way too, but I just, for myself, I think I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity. And then everybody gets that opportunity. And people go off to work and they literally go off to work. And then it's a completely separate life than you do when you're at home. And sometimes a lot of us spend more time working than we do at home. So I do find it to be a very fortunate opportunity to be working with my spouse. So I don't know if you share in that.
yeah, for sure. For me, it's a double-edged sword because there is that flexibility and being home and we have a couple kids still at home. And so being able to have that flexibility to be there for them, for the family, for sure. But then the other side of it, being a business owner is you're kind of always working. So it's a weird blend of flexibility for me, and that's how I try to describe it to people that look at this and say, "Oh, like you can work whenever you want, you can make your own schedule." Yes and no. So definitely I call it the double-edged sword.
People ask me this question, so I'm wondering from your point of view, what do you think is the best part of being an agency owner?
I would say setting your own rules based on your own values. Like it really is the opportunity to be true to yourself and do things the way that resonates with you. I've always been a person where I can't not do the right thing according to my own set of values. I say I always have to be able to wake up and be able to look at myself in the mirror and recognize that person. And being an agency owner, any business owner gives you that, right? You create your playbook, you create your business, and you find those people that resonate with that.
So on the and I believe in that too. You're creating your own environment, you're creating your own story. So as you just said, I think that being more true to your values is important, and then we get to do that with our clients. We get to take our good values and bring it to them, and we hope that they share in that. Because I feel like I'm sharing always the same values with a lot of our groups that we work with about being accountable, being transparent, accessible, like all the things that we want to be for our families and for our friends and for our colleagues. I want them to do it too. But on the counter side of it, what's the hardest part for you about just being an owner?
For me, it's all the thing you wear a lot of hats, and I think for me, it's all the stuff that I'm not passionate about. I hate accounting. I hate money. There's something about money that gives me anxiety, like, just the billing aspect that I get to outsource now. But at least starting out, it was really hard for me to that's a skill set that I didn't have. Whereas when you're an agency owner starting a marketing agency, HubSpot agency, I could do my own marketing. That's a skill set that I have. I didn't have to outsource it. So I was definitely blessed in that way. But I would say the accounting things, I I do not like to handle the taxes.
Yeah, it feels like a luxury to have other people come in and help, but I've found that if you invest in it correctly to get the right kind of support, then you can focus on the things that you do really love. And yeah, I'm not good at that stuff too, so I brought in professionals to help us out. Because I'm like I'm supposed to be doing things that people would know us for. So the strategy, the marketing, the branding, inbound marketing, outbound marketing. So why in the world am I trying to like prepare taxes? That's just not. I was to not go to school for those things. So yeah, I understand it, and I can definitely appreciate where you're coming from. Is there anything else that you think like you're surprised that you're doing now as an agency owner that you didn't think you'd be doing before, other than the accounting?
I think in general, working with my spouse, when we got married, I never thought we would be able to have this. So that's definitely a great surprise. I get a lot of reactions from people when I say, this is my business partner and my husband, where they'll say, "Oh, I could never work with my husband, or I could never work with my wife or my partner." And like that's just too close. And for me, it's kind of to your point earlier about trust and who you most trust. It's kind of, I can't think of anybody else to do it with. It makes sense, and our skill sets aligned and complement each other. So That's definitely been a surprise. I'm sure there have been many others along the way and many more to come.
Sure, but I used to make fun of, the companies that were the saying, "a mom and pop shop," and then I realized, "Wait a second, I'm a mom and pop shop." I didn't realize myself.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, it is one of those situations where I don't think I would have imagined that as well. We have completely different things that we studied in school, even though we went to the same college, but were in completely different areas. And we had different paths to begin with and all sorts of things. So to converge again where we are now, I never would have anticipated that at all. And I think that is something that is kind of fun. I don't know if she always thinks it's fun, but for me, it is kind of fun. And then you guys get to go to conferences like we did too, and you got to go to Inbound this year. How many times have we been?
This was our first year at it, and I'm glad that we made it. I heard it was a big year compared to previous inbounds and a lot of changes, and it was just great. We live in kind of our bubble of our office or our home, like when you're running a small business, and nice to get out of the house and shake other people's hands.
Well, when I think about going to conferences, especially with Stephanie, she has a different perspective on what she sees and hears versus what I do, and that's something that I think is also kind of good when it comes to owning your own agency and having different perspectives on things and not just such just one, singular vision. So I love that, and I think that was great that you guys got to go there and be there together and experience it all. And I got to meet Luke, so that was awesome. That was really great. I was gonna just before we take a break, I was just curious. One more thing. Here we are. We're probably people are watching this on social media and whatnot. Is there anything out there that you find just wildly annoying when it comes to watching the content on LinkedIn, Instagram? When it comes like thinking about agencies and marketing and commercial and sales strategies, things like that. Is there anything out there that you're seeing right now that's just really annoying to you?
I would say outlandish claims. I feel like they're kind of petering off, but there's so many things that I see that I feel bombarded with that it's like, as an agency owner, I get a lot of cold outreach, but even just on feed of, hey, we're going to 10x this and a billion sales calls in 3 weeks, like your company's going to grow. And maybe I'm just jaded, or have a bad attitude, but I look at that and I'm just like, it really takes so much more than just a quick fix. And so I would say that makes me roll my eyes and keep scrolling of like the outlandish marketing or advertising claims.
I absolutely agree. It's like somebody said some keyword at one point, like everything you say has to be quantifiable from now on. And then they just make up all the stats. And I get I mean, probably like you, I get just dozens and dozens of inquiries per day in both email and social media that are really nothing more than people trying to become our prospecting agency of sorts. And they're going to convert all these calls and they're going to convert so many other things that they're looking to do. And I just can't, I think that's total spam. The other thing that bothers me though are all the life coaches right now. That just think they know they're the Yodas and they want to be out there on social media to tell us how to organize ourselves and be the best we can be. Be true to yourself. But no, I think for me, in general, the way that which social media is being used these days just feel a lot more like advertising. Every single post doesn't feel like people are really sharing a lot much more on the thought leadership side as wish they would because it's a great platform and that's what we're doing right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the trends that are happening in marketing here on the Sound of Inbound. Kaylee, thank you so much again for joining us. Everybody, stay tuned. Okay, everybody, we are back and we're still here with Kaylee. We're going to talk about some of the things that are happening in the world all around us because Sound of Inbound is all around what makes brands magnetic. So, the first question I have for you, Kaylee, is give me a brand that you absolutely love. What's a brand that you absolutely love right now?
Well, so it's football season, so we've been watching a lot of games in our house. So that's where like all of my cool advertising marketing is coming in from. But I would say Liquid Death, and I know we've been talking about them for a while, obviously super popular. I love that brand. It's so creative. And I think the most recent TV ad I saw was with Spinal Tap. So doing like cool collaborations and it's just fun. And it resonates with that fun part of me.
Yeah,
Like,
and somebody else on our show said exactly the same thing. Liquid Death, hashtag not a sponsor, is one of these groups that has just broken through something that no one expected, just coming out of nowhere and taking something that's so mundane and making it cool again. Who would have thought? Water.
I think we've seen a lot of cool collaborations recently, even like Sabrina Carpenter and with Duncan, right? Playing off her hit Espresso and just like these pairings that make sense. Influencer marketing has obviously exploded, but still those celebrity or those high level brands working together. I think it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I'm going to counter this question. So, what's a brand? I used to ask the question, what's a brand you hate, but that's just going to be too tough. I would ask people now, like, what's a brand that has failed you?
A brand that I would say I struggle with recently is Crumble. I was thinking about this too, the brands that have failed me, it's really on that customer service side or that experience. It's not even about the marketing that built my trust and got me in the door. I love a good sweet treat. So going to Crumble, at least our local Crumble, I feel like the experience has diminished. Their branding and marketing is so clean and crisp and very limited color palette. It's gorgeous. I love their branding and their marketing. But my experience when I go into the store, there's crumbs, there's frosting everywhere. My box has like frosting on it. And then they open it and it's like, okay, does this look okay? And what are you gonna say? Tell the 16-year-old teenager like no, right? And again, I don't know if this is just our local location, but there's even like paper towels sitting right there on the counter. And I'm like, that's very indicative of there's a larger issue going on. So again, for me, it's that brand that it's really trust, right? It's I know I'm gonna like this cookie. It's gorgeous, even if that's on like a deep mental level and you're not consciously aware. That's what it is trust. And I think the brands that I really struggle with are when that experience doesn't match the trust that's been built.
That's when the cookie crumbles
That
at
is what
customer service. But it's true, and we've talked about a lot of organizations that the brand does seem like they should have it together, but if they don't meet that last mile with customer service, the whole thing was pointless. They just can't deliver. You really have to think about brand as the entire customer experience, not just the first touch point and a cool looking logo. I think the thing about Liquid Death is that they deliver too. They have a great product and it is accessible and it's fun. And they are cheeky with it. I mean, they're just doing a lot of things that I think, and what I've said to the B2B world is that I'm envious of that kind of marketing. I wish we could do that kind of like level of creative latitude the way they get to at Liquid Death. So I'm a big shout out for those guys. Those are great, and I love what they're doing there too. We're kind of getting to it, but just from your standpoint, especially like with a brand like Magic the Gathering, like what do you think have taken all these brands, make them so successful, so magnetic for people to want to come and engage with them? We're kind of hinting at it right now about the full customer experience, but have there been like a singular thing that you feel like has made them so magnetic and just so celebrated?
well, I think the obvious aside of finding your differentiator, right? Like it really goes back to building those relationships, building that trust at its core, no pun or pun intended. That's really what's going to drive a successful brand is being able to have that connection. It's harder now in 2025. It's harder now in the digital age, but it's that hasn't changed. Even what we learned at Inbound and with all of the tools that we have at our disposal, you have to know who you are and who you are trying to attract, and you have to make that message resonate.
There have been some things that we were learning at HubSpot that I feel like should be shared more often with people. I think as an agency, one of the things we learned at HubSpot that we should be not afraid of is owning our niche. And that's something a lot of agencies over the course of my career, a lot of them want to be just the answer to everybody and everything and just answer do every phone call, every opportunity, they'll just take it no matter what industry. Curious from your standpoint if you agree on that, or do you think agencies need to stay really wide open? Because as we talk about those brands, you just said a minute ago, it's like, what's your differentiation? What's the thing you're going to be known for? And so if you are very wide open about, I'll just take it all, it's hard to be known for anything, can't be good at everything. I'm just curious from your standpoint, if you took away that same kind of that understanding and that strategy from the inbound conference?
I definitely took that away, but it also wasn't a new message that I've heard from, different agency owners. We get that question all the time. That being said, I don't wanna knock anyone that is starting out and does that because I feel like that's how a lot of us start out, right? It takes a lot of courage to make that jump into starting your own business and figuring it out along the way. And I feel like that's a common process, but I agree as your company matures, as you change, grow, find new opportunities, you have to narrow that down. That being said, I don't think that finding your niche has to be a specific industry. At least that's gospel according to Kaylee or what we have found that works for us. So it's definitely finding that differentiator, but I don't think that your mind doesn't have to be limited to, okay, am I going to focus on manufacturing or e-commerce or this? Let's get rid of those buckets and pick differentiators that can be outside of verticals or industries.
I sometimes make the analogy of like a restaurant. You would go. Although this has happened to me recently. That's kind of funny. I love Mexican food, and if I were to go to a Mexican food place, I wouldn't want to roll in and have like spaghetti. It's like you're looking for the Mexican food. So you're calling them, you're going to them because you know pretty much what you're going to get. I do find it though interesting when they have their own spin on it though. So if there's any analogy in here for agency owners, I mean you do want to get to be known for that one thing, but maybe you have your own spin on it that makes it unique to you, and then you can have some creative latitude or some strategic latitude about how to execute. So for us, we did start off with life sciences and healthcare and some technology or healthcare IT and some straight up SaaS work that we did with different organizations around the world. And then we slowly found ourselves, the referrals were only coming in from one other world, and that was just life sciences. And I didn't want to fight it anymore. I felt like we were trying to go against the grain to try to look for other types of work and get certain kinds of inquiries that were pulling us way outside of what I think we were getting to be known for. And then I had to figure out a way to, as you said, get to a maturity point where you just have to own it. And it sounds like that's kind of where you guys are too.
Yeah, and I love that because for you it happened naturally and you leaned into it. You didn't try to fight it based on, no, I don't want to be this, I want to be that. So I think it can happen naturally and I love that you brought that up and why fight what you're clearly doing really well at, right? Like if you're getting those referrals, clearly you're doing something awesome.
Exactly. Okay, so with all of that, I have to bring up it's always the elephant in the universe now, of AI. And so I was with a group last night, and it was actually a really great conversation with a whole bunch of folks from our area, different kinds of leaders and entrepreneurs and all sorts of different industries. And we were sharing what tools we were using. And I'm still learning of like all net new tools. I had no no idea how universities are using AI or how big technology is using AI. And some folks are, even though they work for big tech, they're very limited about what they can do with these tools. And as a owner of our own business, I'm like, we could just do whatever we want. So I'm not sure if you have any kind of advice or certain tools that you've leaned into recently, but I'd be curious to know how you guys are leveraging AI.
I would say in terms of tools, definitely ChatGPT. That being said, with Inbound just a few weeks ago, whole host of tools inside of HubSpot that we're definitely going to be leaning into upskilling, not only for ourselves, but for our clients, since we're in HubSpot every single day and cool new solutions for them. But I would say in terms of usage of ChatGPT, summarizing meeting notes. Like we all have AI meeting note takers, but they don't always do the best. So rerunning that through Chat GPT to say, okay, what specifically are the action items? Or like if I'm looking for something specific, or as simple as writing emails, it just starts the work that I do so much faster. I think at Inbound they said it best, it really accelerates what you're doing, so leaning into that to accelerate things that are more tedious, at least for me, so I can focus on more strategy. And that's really important because AI is still a tool and we still have to think and train it and tell it what to do. But that humanity piece still needs to stay there.
I 100% agree. One thing you mentioned about the HubSpot folks, and I think it is important to kind of bring it up because we're both agency partners, is that in their platform, they were the first CRM that integrated with OpenAI and Claude and now Gemini. And they also have integrations with Perplexity and a few other platforms. And when you're in their system, you're actually leveraging a number of different tools. And people don't realize that yet. And there's a lot of power in that. So if you've ever played with agent.ai, you'll kind of get a sense of what I think HubSpot strategy is around how to leverage the best tool and model for the specific task. So some things you would think are better suited for Claude than they are better suited for OpenAI. And I think that's a really important strategy to consider when you're thinking about making an investment in building out your marketing engine, your commercial engine, that you're using a tool that's leveraging the best of what's out there, not just one channel. And then on the reverse side, using OpenAI to actually look at your CRM data and pull it over and look at a huge data set and look for patterns and look for things that can recommend is not something that I was able to do before or our team had time to do before. So now we're actually able to do a whole nother level of strategy we had no time for. We just had never even thought about it. So it's actually giving us new opportunities we didn't even think about.
Yeah, and to your point of different tools and finding the best tool for whatever task you're working on, I feel like forever ago, this happened with CRMs, right? There were like a bunch of CRMs or email service providers that came into the market, and now we've really narrowed down to some key softwares. I feel like we're going to see that with AI. There's a ton of different AI tools being developed across different platforms for different purposes, but I feel like we're going to see it narrow down to some winners. That being said, for people or businesses just starting out with AI, 'cause we have clients that have never even touched an AI tool. They don't want to, they're not interested, they don't feel like they need it or they don't understand it. Just the ramp up of not using any AI, but already we're seeing a bunch of tools for very specific purposes. There might be a steep learning curve for those that haven't started or, they're not familiar yet.
During the conference, I'm not joking when I'm saying this. There were people sitting about a row or two ahead of me in one of the aisles, and they were leaning in like, "There's so much stuff about AI. Don't use it." And then the person next to her said, "You are using ChatGPT. You were on it this morning." She's like, "Oh, that's AI." I'm like, "Oh my god, people don't even realize they're." But it is everywhere. It's not something that I think people can avoid anymore. You just have to realize that that's happened. And if you pick a tool, I think in general, for me at least, if you do pick a tool, try it. Just try out a whole bunch of different kinds of exercises with it, and try search, and also try, you know, any other kinds of tasking. It's incredible what these things have done for us, especially on the marketing side these days. I'm really impressed. I'm excited also where HubSpot's taking us, and that's something that we don't always have a time to invest in, and they've made the investment for us. They're going to make it easy for us to bring it to our clients, which is great.
For me too, the memory of an AI tool and being able to train it and remember, like, my chat GPT knows my kids' names, my husband's name, my dog, like details about my life where it's nice. It's like a person, as scary as that is, I don't have to retell it the same prompt every time I want something. And so that was a key piece for me is when I want to pick up where I left off, I don't have to, hi, my name is Kaylee Gugel. I own an agency, like give the whole prompt again. It just knows.
Well, is there anything you're doing with it right now that you would say people should try? I have one I'm thinking of, but I'm just curious if you've using AI in some way that you're like, oh, people should try XYZ.
This might be basic, but creating documents and reports. So whether that's starting at the research, I typically do a lot of my own research, but I don't like writing. So it's a lot of that copywriting where it can do it in my voice and I can make edits. Again, it's that acceleration of giving me a first or second draft where I can then have that piece of content, whether it's strategy or a proposal or whatever I'm working on, that's like, okay, it's already in a PDF, it's all ready to go. That copywriting, again, whether it's whatever it's for, that has saved me so much time.
And one thing that I was curious about myself was how is the AI seeing us online? So instead of using a tool like SEMrush, I'm asking the AI to tell me what it's seeing itself so I can improve how our clients and how ourselves are being perceived online by all sorts of other AI tools. And so I call it the AI perception report. And I think there's actually some agents that they've added into HubSpot that are doing a similar kind of thing. But I crafted my own prompt and I've been now running this for ourselves and for our clients. I wish I could do this on like a real time basis because it would be great to know when the perception is changing and if that's a good or a bad thing for any of us out there, and just trying to look to make sure that we are being found, especially through a tool now that's not the traditional Google search, you know?
Can it give you alerts?
Yeah, I think that there are some tools that will do that now, and that's what I'm curious, like, when it finds us, like, I think like Google Alerts, right? You can set up a, prompt to tell you, "Yes, I want you to tell me when this organization has been mentioned to the news," and I would hope that, there would be some tools out there in the AI world to, help us with that as well, and know us when we're popping up, and the perception is changing, yeah.
I don't know specifically about that in your prompt, but we're in the market to get a new car. And so I told ChatGPT, I said, these are the 4 models we're looking at. This is our price range, how many miles we want. It not only did the research and pulled up safety reports, cost of ownership, things like that, but it now sends me alerts when a new car comes into market within our, Madison area radius. So that's the first time I've used alerts from ChatGPT, but it's super cool.
Does it email you or does it just throw a notification up? How does it work?
It emails me that there is a notification. So when I click, it'll take me back to that original chat.
And it'll tell you there's an update there.
Yeah.
So I'm doing these deep research reports for the clients, and it takes 15, 20 minutes for these things to run, and it's pulling information from all these other sources as well, and it notifies me when those are done. But I wish it would run like afterwards. Now just keep going, keep running in real time. Of course, how much energy would that take? But that's my hope. Like they would kind of give us that real time response on what are we doing right and wrong, and what we can do to improve upon it. For all those folks that are kind of solopreneurs, I'm just curious if you have any advice that you want to leave with them on thinking about either just making sure they're out there doing their thing. Any advice that you would say for folks that they should try this out to be a solopreneur or building their agency? What are your advice about folks that are interested in getting into this kind of stuff?
Have the courage to take the jump. When you bet on yourself, it's not as scary. And I had to get over a lot of fear to do that. So I totally get it. But also trust your gut. There's so much data out there and you can look at metrics and, something can look good on paper, but if you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, then run. Whether it's, not a good business opportunity or not a good client fit or things like that. Like I said, things can look perfect on paper, but if you have that feeling, listen to it. Feel like there were a couple times where I didn't because everything looked good on paper and they weren't mistakes, they were learning experiences. And that's the positivity that I put onto it is that, I'm a better business owner because of that, but your gut will change over time. Always listen to it.
I love that. I do too. I would say part of that listening to your instinct is to also work with people that you want to work with. And so when you're on your own, you get to build your own network. You have nobody to really report to. So why not go and find all the folks that you think make you the most happy and surround yourself with those people? And I think that's like following your instinct and following, making your squad. And I think that's always a good thing. And it always, reveals all sorts of interesting opportunities for everyone. Kind of like use that force multiplier of a really talented team and a good strong network to kind of support each other. And when you're especially on your own, you need that network to kind of help you out. So, but I love that. I wish we'd all follow our instincts more often. Kaylee, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate this conversation today. Learned a lot about you guys that are doing some things out in Wisconsin. I do miss that place. I have a lot of connections still to the area, and I need to get back more. And I'm sure it's now pretty in fall there. Not so fall down here, down in North Carolina, but I'm sure it's going to be a very pretty fall in Wisconsin. But it's been wonderful. I'm so glad we had this chance to get together. If everybody wants to find you online, tell everybody where your website's at.
Yeah, so we are at commoncoremarketing.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I would say those are the two best avenues to find out more and connect.
Yep, but it's Kaylee Gugel spelled Gugel. And you'll also find her partner in crime, Luke, out there too. They are fantastic. And you're gonna see us all very soon in our pajamas as we look to launch Pillow Talk,
Pillow talk.
which I
I
do
love it.
hope we get to do. Always trying new things. That's what this whole world's about. We got to try different kinds of things these days. It's easy to do it. We got to try. All right, Kaylee, thank you so much for joining us today on the Sound of Inbound. Everybody else, please stay tuned and check out more episodes of our podcast on soundofinbound.com. You're also going to find us everywhere that you like to listen to your favorite podcast, and that could include Spotify, and YouTube, and LinkedIn and Instagram. So thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate it. Okay, so here we are in the Sound of Inbound. In the middle of our interview, we just had to share an idea that Kaylee and I and Stephanie and Luke have that we came up with at Inbound. Kaylee, why don't you give everybody the quick brief on what we would love their feedback on for our next new podcast?
All right, you ready? It's called Pillow Talk. And it's us interviewing other agency owners, business owners. There's so many husband and wife teams now. Like compared to even like 5 years ago, more and more couples are going into business together, which presents its own set of unique challenges. And let's just have fun with it and call it Pillow Talk.
I know. And so we're all going to be broadcasting from our beds because, that's where the most important conversations happen. So look for it soon. Tell us in the comments if you think this idea is the most amazing idea. And of course, there's going to be branded pajamas and blankets and pillows and stuffed animal. And our dogs will be featured in it too. Maybe some cats. We'll see.
That's just where all the conversation happens. You work from 9 to 5 and you're dealing with projects all day. And then you're laying in bed and it's like, oh, did I remember to turn that workflow on? Oh, did I publish that email automation? Like that's where the pillow talk.
I agree. I absolutely agree. The thing I'm now technically trying to figure out in my head is how I'm going to set up the microphones, but I think it's totally possible.